Today on Lights Up with Lyric, I sit down with actor Sophie Moeller and director James Mardock from Reno Little Theater's upcoming production, The Exit Interview, by William Missouri Downs. University English professor Dick Figg is being put through a comically torturous exit interview conducted by Human Resources Administrator Eunice. Terror strikes when a mass shooting breaks out on campus, and Figg, a small-talk-hating agnostic, and Eunice, a faithful believer in God, are facing their final moments of life. Each one asks the question of whose point of view has best prepared them to meet their inevitable demise. I'm excited to get an insider's perspective on the play. Come on! Here we are on location in Reno Little Theater's main stage. I'm sitting here with Sophie Moeller and James Mardock from The Exit Interview. James, you are the director of the show, and I'm so excited. I read a little bit of what you had to say about the show, and I was really fascinated by some of the themes that you were choosing to focus on. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about kind of the first impression that you had when you read the script?
Sure. Well, when I read the script, it's an homage really to Bertolt Brecht, which is exciting because I like Brecht. Brecht is this, as the play explains, German playwright from the early part of the 20th century who came to America when the Nazis started taking over, and his theater practice is a reaction against 19th century theater, which was moving very much toward a cinematic experience where you would go and sit in the dark with other people that you couldn't see and look at a naturalistically acted, realistically portrayed scene as if you were watching something playing out in a house with a wall cut off of it, like a diorama. And Brecht said, no, this is not what theater is for, because what this sort of theater does to you is it lulls you into thinking that what you're watching is real. So you're not thinking anymore, you're simply interacting with theater with your emotional faculties. And if you do that, then it lulls you in to reacting to everything with your emotional faculties. Mm-hmm. Brecht, like Shakespeare, like Aristophanes, like Euripides, thought about theater as an extension of the political system. So when he looked at politics, he saw theatrical practices, especially with the rise of the Nazis. You know, Hitler was a fantastic actor, and Brecht saw this and realized, well, people are reacting to Hitler not with their rational faculties, but with their emotions. They're reacting to him as though they're reacting to this more old-fashioned theater, or whether they're reacting to a movie. It's no accident that Hitler used Riefenstahl and used cinema and theatrical practices.
So for sure, that propaganda is famous.
Exactly, right? Brecht sees theater's role as being to force you out of your complacent emotional reaction to theater and force you to think. And so he develops this thing that he calls the alienation effect, or in German, the Verfremdungseffekt. We're having some fun getting our actors to be able to pronounce Verfremdungseffekt. But the alienation effect, so that in the middle of a scene, the lights will come up on the audience, and they'll realize, oh, they're in the theater. Or Galileo will stop being Galileo and become Charles Laughton and pick up his whiskey and his cigar and just start talking about how awful the Inquisition was to Galileo, to the audience. It's that sort of thing that forces the audience to recognize that what they're watching is a play. So that's Brecht.
Why is that device so important for the exit interview?
Yes, that's what I'm getting to.
Yeah.
So that's what Brecht. The exit interview is sort of about Brecht. And so it's winking at all of these Brechtian alienation effects, and it's doing things. Like the play gets interrupted by underwear commercials, and the playwright has extra scenes that he wants to insert, and so the actors have to stop and talk to the stage manager and read extra scenes that have just come up. But that's important for the exit interview because it's a play that's about all of these kinds of discourse. It's not just theater and it's not just political propaganda, but it's small talk and cable news and advertising, these sorts of things that are aimed underneath your rational response at your emotional response to make you forget. And cheerleading, right? You don't react to cheerleaders as though they're making an argument. You react to them because they move nicely and they say things that you can all chant together.
What is it that you think that they're trying to make us forget?
Well, I mean, something innocuous like what you're cheering for is a bunch of people in red shirts versus a bunch of people in blue shirts. You don't care about those people in red shirts, but they represent Boston. And so you must cheer for them because you are from Boston, and that makes us all feel closer together. There's nothing rational about it. It's just, it feels good to be a mob. It feels good to say rock, chalk, Jayhawk, or go Wolfpack, with a bunch of other people saying go Wolfpack. And so that's innocuous in a sporting context, but it's maybe not so innocuous at a political rally where you're chanting, say, a political candidate's monosyllabic name. I'm not naming any names because it's a political season, but it rhymes with hump, right? So you're chanting a monosyllabic candidate's name and you are feeling really good, and maybe you don't necessarily notice that the sorts of, when you move into something that you would rationally object to, like, really, we're going to eject all the illegal aliens really, we're not going to let any of the 1.5 billion Muslims into the country? Really, you want me to punch that guy? Okay, I'll punch that guy. That's when it gets dangerous. I'm not trying to draw comparisons between Trump and Hitler. Plenty of other people have done that already, and I don't have to do it. That's the kind of thing, right? Why do you want to buy that car? Not because you've read the small print at the bottom of the TV screen that details the safety features, but because Matthew McConaughey looks really cool driving in it to that poker game. Wow. So this play takes potshots at the nothingness that gets exchanged in small talk. It takes potshots at cable news. It takes potshots at advertising, and it links all of these things together with theater. And Brecht is a great way of linking those things together.
I'm really excited for this show, and I when I read the script, I was just so fascinated with Eunice and Dick's dialogue that they have together, the kind of toe-to-toe that they take in their philosophy. And Sophie, can you tell us about Eunice and how, kind of your take on her philosophy?
Eunice is a very dry human being she works in HR, and from what we have come to gather, I think she has done these exit interviews time and time again, and she's become a bit robotic. That being said, obviously every play has an arc, so hopefully her personality changes throughout the show. But her belief system, she's a very routine person. She is very devout to her religion. She believes in small talk and being polite. And Dick is basically her rival human. So this is an exit interview that turns out to be not the most average interview she's ever had, or most routine exit interviews she's ever conducted. So it goes into this kind of world of ridiculousness, and that's where the Brecht philosophy comes in. But you're never sure when it's going to happen, so it kind of keeps you on your toes. Eunice, it's a funny character because I think when I was auditioning, I thought if anything, I would have a hopeful chance of being cast maybe as a cheerleader or one of the multi-caricatures. And what we're finding with Eunice more and more is that the more real she's played is, the more the audience is going to be able to relate to her instead of the Saturday Night Live caricature, I can never say the word correctly, that then people are going to feel more for her and possibly maybe even root for her in the situation that they find themselves in.
Yeah, one of the really Brechtian things about this is that you're repeatedly asked to sympathize with characters as though they're real people and actually feel something for them, and then the play purposefully disallows you from identification with them. But she's absolutely right. This is something that we're all discovering as we read through this and work through the play more and more. On first reading, I don't know if you've read the whole play a couple times, right?
Oh, yeah.
On first reading, it seems as though Eunice is an unsympathetic caricature, and that Dick is sort of the voice of the play. At least that's how it seemed to me. That this is a play that wants to point out the silliness of magical thinking in all of the ways that manifests itself, whether it's somebody's superstition or their willingness to believe the tenets of Rhonda Byrne's book, The Secret, or organized religion. And Dick is a rationalist, agnostic professor who seems to be the voice of the play and a more sympathetic character. But as we're working through this, I don't know if you're noticing this, that it seems the play is more even-handed than I thought it was. Not that Eunice isn't sort of a caricature, but Dick is also a caricature. And so
for sure. He reminds me of a lot of the professors that I had.
Thank you very much.
I wasn't digging at all professors.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that I've had Dick
English
Fig as a professor, I swear.
Professor like Dick is. So you had Dick Fig as an English professor. That's good.
I have to say, though, too, in the way it's written, it's not necessarily favoring a side either, which is why I like the play, because I feel like at the end you're allowed to figure it out on your own of who or what or
Eunice
what your core
has
values.
an epiphany and completely changes her worldview, though that's sort of troubled at
But
the
we
end.
don't want to ruin the play.
No, we
Dick has an epiphany and sort of changes his worldview, maybe. This is not a spoiler. It's an odd exit interview because Dick is sort of the first person that Eunice finds absurdly a connection with, but also because it's happening on the day that there's a gunman on campus. That's not a spoiler. It happens at the very beginning.
Exactly, yeah.
So what we have in this play is two diametrically opposed worldviews in a lot of ways. One very devout person of faith who's a little bit fuzzy-headed about why she's a person of faith, and one very hard-headed agnostic who's also a little fuzzy-headed about why he's an agnostic. And the collision that they're brought to is sort of brought to the fore by this gunman. So, right, the question that the play asks and doesn't necessarily answer is which of these two worldviews better prepares a person to face down the potential of a bullet to the head.
Mass shootings are such a huge emotional topic in the media and for a lot of people. So how do you and how does the playwright kind of ease the audience into being comfortable watching this and sitting in and taking the story in?
Going to be comfortable. If we do our job right, they're not going to be comfortable at all.
Why is that important?
Well, because if they're comfortable, if they're just sort of chuckling along, then they'll forget the play after they go to their car and have a free drink on Thursdays. Every Thursday at Reno Little Theater. Ideally what they're going to do is think about how active shooters on school campuses are portrayed. One of the things that I'm working with, that Taylor is working on, Taylor is our lighting designer. You may know him. Is portraying the gunman in a sort of themed light. He's going to be less naturalistic and more the idea of a gunman, the idea of a gunman on a school campus that cable news presents. And then by the end of the play, I think it'll be surprising and moving, the contrast between that and the actual disturbed, recognizably human individual that's underneath the mask.
How does Eunice reconcile what's happening around her?
How does she deal with the gunman being in is that what you mean by the question?
That whole situation, because it's intense for a lot of people, and
she's had a
media.
workshop, so she's very schooled in what to do in this situation. She's by the book, so she has this down. She knows you stop, drop, and roll. You get under the desk, and she's just really, like I said, a creature of habit, of routine. She goes by rules. I'm not sure anyone's really afraid of death until you're really faced with it. So, she even states at one point that she doesn't think she's going to die, So, again, I think the play actually humanizes a lot of things, even a gunman, that, and a lot of it has to do with media there, and before you get afraid of coming to see a show that's about school shootings, media, politics, and everything else in between.
And underwear commercials.
Right when you think it's getting too serious, it changes and kind of go, whoop. So right when you're kind of getting invested into it, all of a sudden a scene changes and you're brought into another world. And I think it's going to be one of those shows that, you're out at the gas lamp afterwards and kind of go, whoa, and it's going to take a minute to process. But I was even watching in rehearsal tonight, and there's moments where it's really brilliant how he writes, because you get it. You get these scenes with Dick and Eunice. You have felt that you don't want to make small talk, and at the same time, where's that fine line between being polite and friendly and courteous to people, and at what point is it snarky to constantly have an opposing opinion about everything?
Oh, yeah.
And like you said, that person, we all, and maybe we've had a piece of that, ourselves, where you're not even listening to what somebody is saying because you're just waiting
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, you're just waiting to respond, right? So, we all have a little dick in us.
I did want to ask you guys, though, what is your favorite line from the show? And Sophie, it doesn't have to be one of Eunice's lines. Just in general, what is your favorite line from the exit interview?
Right now, my favorite line, and I'm being completely sincere, even though it doesn't, I know you guys are going to think it's just with the context, but Eunice has a line, but maybe I shouldn't spoil it, where she goes, but it says here you are a dick. I love that line. I didn't deliver it properly, but I love that line.
That's my least favorite line in the whole show. It's such a low-hanging fruit of a joke. And I love the way that you do it, because you don't acknowledge that it's a joke, and that's fine. If anybody in the audience wants to think that it's a joke, then it's a joke. But it's not. No.
I love that
line.
I like the line.
He's gonna like something smart.
No. I like the line. Do you have any idea how long it takes to bludgeon a moose to death?
Oh yeah, that's a good one too. Although I do like the line too, where she's like, "Do you know what you need? A secret." I love that line.
Like your lines.
I do like
that. So all the more reason to learn them.
It's not true. I know them all. I just it's how I work. It's not true. I know them all. I just it's how I work.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that struck me when I was reading your notes was you provided 5 different lines that you were intrigued by.
Oh yeah, right. What were they?
I can't remember verbatim, but one of the lines was about secondhand opinions that were passed down from parents and
Yeah.
whatnot about religion and things like that. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, although if I do, it's gonna kind of spoil the climax of the play.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Oh, I do. I thought of lines that aren't mine that I like a lot.
Good.
The whole Lotus exchange, but I don't want to spoil that
The what?
either. The Lotus with the scientist. The Lotus.
Locusts.
Locusts. I mean,
Those are very different things.
it's late.
It is late.
I know my
Yeah,
lines.
that is good. Yeah.
The locust line, but I didn't want to ruin it, so I was saying.
So
Lotus.
among the things that the play is about is Lutheranism, Mormonism, well-fitting bras, right? What are some
Yes.
other things that the play is about? Diet Coke,
Science.
the perplexing analogies for the Holy Trinity,
Twisted text.
Twisted-
Texticles.
twisted testicles. Yeah, that's good, right?
And that's a scientific term, so you can say that on the web.
Latent
On the
lesbianism,
Yes.
right?
Manifesting your own destiny.
Sure. Yeah,
That's part of it.
that.
Yeah.
Foam board.
Foam board, big moment.
There's a lot. It's
Jesus.
yeah.
Got to bring Jesus in, just to top it off.
It's really interesting.
It sounds like you have a cast of 20 with all of these things that
Yeah.
that you've listed out. But
Well, there's
really you only
27
have-
characters in the play. We're doing it with 7, and that's fun. It gets really frenetic in the second act. Some of these people are going to be really working up a sweat. Sophie's
I don't
character
move.
doesn't leave the room.
I have never played a character. I was saying that to my fellow actors today. I've never played a character that stays in such a confined space without movement. And it's not because of the directing, it's the show. I mean, they're hiding. And so
Yeah, she never leaves the
I
storage
never
room.
leave her little storage room. And so it's a challenge as an actor to find ways, and it's definitely been challenging for me because I'm very animated in how I act, and he was commenting on my facial expressions.
This is our set, isn't it?
It is.
That's so much higher than I thought it
Well,
would
so
be.
it doesn't matter.
No, you poor thing.
No. I'm sorry. I was just thinking about what you were saying and about our
This
set.
is actors in a nutshell, folks.
This is roughly where you're going to be.
Oh, so this space
This right
is
here,
where
where you're
I
sitting, is
sit.
roughly where you don't
Right.
leave. Yeah.
So 99% of the time I'm in a chair or I'm hiding under a desk, and I find memorization, and I swear I'm not using this as an excuse, but goes a lot with movement.
Absolutely,
So
it
it's
does,
finding
yeah.
reasons and motivations of why you're saying things
Mm-hmm.
while you're sitting or having a very subtle movement, and finding motivation in that subtlety.
Is this the first time that you're playing a character that doesn't leave the stage, like from the moment that she appears?
We did 5 lesbians eating a quiche. I think I was on stage the entire time. But it's always a challenge because even when, like you said, when the lights are off, you have to make sure that you're not all of a sudden, just taking a nap or,
Oh,
a
for sure.
break or even an itch on your face. There's someone always watching, and I hope at an audience, they're an aware audience that they're paying attention to you. You have to stay in character the whole time.
I'm going to speak for myself and the rest of the Reno Little Theater staff when I say that we are so delighted to have you guys with us and to be featuring you on our stage and to have you directing our fantastic talent here. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining me for Lights Up with Leo.